Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to episode 126 of In a Good Way podcast. It's funny because this episode is about 216 and 126 is the same numbers, just rearranged. So, anyways, I titled this My NDE story because this is very similar to what many people describe in NDE stories. The only difference is I have like endless proof, right? Not that they don't, right? But a lot of times when people share spiritual experiences, you have to take their word for it. And for the most part, most people in spiritual communities are already open. So it's not like you have to convince anyone anyways. But I guess this is a good presentation because it is a presentation that I'm about to do. So it is something that's I'm not really putting a time limit on it. I'm just gonna share all the evidence. But I'm gonna read something in the beginning. So at least listen to what I'm saying. It's going to be very easy to follow along because I put together endless proof, right? And this is still just the tip of the iceberg, as much proof as I'm showing about what I'm about to talk about, right? Which is 216. And so like I said, this is kind of like my showing everything that happened, you know, um in regards to this, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. It's funny because I did a presentation on my birthday out of all days, right? June 9th of this year, 2024. I was invited to speak for the Spiritual Awakenings International, event that they had, right? SAI. And I was able to speak, but they only gave me about 15 minutes. But that was the first time that I had to put together a PowerPoint. And then I didn't even get to use it. But then the last interview or live I did with Jane, we did a little PowerPoint thing. So I'm like, you know what? I already knew I was supposed to do this. And they already invited me to speak later on. I believe in early next year for the SAI, where they were going to give me more time, right? Not just 15 minutes, but more time to speak about, really whatever I wanted to speak about. But most likely I was going to speak about this. And so I already knew I was going to have to put together something at some point. So I was like, you know what? Let me do this. And like I said, this is gonna translate over to not just the spiritual, but anyone that wants to look at it scientifically, mathematically, you name it. This is there was this movie called Mr. Holland's Opus or something. So this is like my Holland's Opus. I don't even know what that means, but this is like my sort of contribution to humanity, so to speak, right? I even want to look that up real quick. Mr. Holland's Opus. Opus. I don't know, but yeah, you guys get it, right? That's funny. It's 143 minutes long, which is a number that pops up for me a lot. But, I think it's based on a true story. I don't even know. Or maybe not. Who knows? Okay, but there. Let me not veer off subject because, whoever's here for this, I don't want to waste any time going into other stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do the PowerPoint so you guys can follow along. And here we go. Let me screen share. Okay, so 216 and the secrets of the universe, right? As you all know, 216 was the day that my brother passed away, and from there it led me on down this incredible rabbit hole that took over 4 years to put everything together, and has still continued, which is why I was reminded not too long ago to continue with everything I needed to share about this, because even though I already did the book and the audio book, I noticed, I don't feel like everyone's still grasping the whole situation, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and begin this presentation, right? So here's the first thing. Statistically, I wanted to show that statistically, um, it's like impossible, right? For me to show what I'm about to show, it's impossible. So anyone that's more logical, like I said, spiritual people are probably, it's easier for them to grasp these kind of things, but mathematically, I'm going to show too, right, that there's no way this could happen, right? So here's Peter Stoner's calculations. Professor Peter W. Stoner was chairman of the departments of mathematics and astronomy at Pasadena City College and chairman of the science division at Westmont College. In his book, Science Speaks, Professor Stoner outlines the mathematical probability of one person in the first century fulfilling just 8 of the most clear and straightforward messianic prophecies. So the reason I bring that up is because they said, like, that's why so many people believe in the story of Jesus, right? Because that there were prophecies that, someone was going to fulfill all these prophecies. And they're saying that even just 8 of those prophecies being fulfilled, they're about to show the statistics. Josh and Sean McDowell quote Stoner in their book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. We find that the chance that any man might have lived down to the present time and fulfilled all 8 prophecies is 1 in 10 to the 17th power. That's 1 in 100. What is it? Quadrillion? I think it's quadrillion. So I'm not sure if I'm saying the word wrong. Hold on, let me. Oh man, I'm one of those, like, I like to check so I don't sound ridiculous, right? So let me see. Quadrill. Yeah, it is quadrillion. Okay. Quadrillion. Okay. So we find that the chance that any man might have lived down to the present time and fulfill all 8 prophecies is 1 in 10 to the 17th power, which is 1 in 100 trillion, right? Quadrillion. So I haven't even used that word before. I think the most I've said is like trillion, right? 1 trillion or something like that. I've never even had to say the word 100 quadrillion, right? So they're saying that just like how the Jesus prophecy. So right here, what I'm about to show is going to be closer to this next statement that they're talking about. In case you're wondering, the Mega Millions had a 1.6 billion jackpot in October of 2018, and the odds of winning it were merely 1 in 302 million, 575, 350, right? Stoner went on to calculate the probability of one person fulfilling 48 prophecies would be 1 in 10 to the 157th power. So I can't even count. I'm sure it's a number that most of us will never in a million years use, right? So just to show my synchronicities and all the evidence I'm showing is going to be closer to that one, right? And they're, like they said, I've heard a lot of preachers. That's why I looked up these statistics to begin with, because I've heard preachers say, oh, for those that don't believe in Jesus, it was like the probabilities of him, this Messiah that they had prophesied about, I don't know, prophesized about. That's why, right? Because all these prophecies came true. Right here it's talking about 8 prophets. I don't know if that's all that was fulfilled, 8 prophecies, but I think there were 48 prophecies about it. So maybe he fulfilled all 48 prophecies. Don't quote me, right? I'm not too sure about that. But okay, so that says the basis for what I'm about to show, right? If you look at it mathematically, and I'm sure someone with Einstein level genius puts together all the stuff that I'm showing, they'll be like, oh, wow, like this is impossible. There's no way, let alone showing 8. I'm about to show you like 50 or more examples of what I'm showing you, that I was blessed enough to whatever, just be a vessel to show this, right, in this reality. So here we go. Let's continue. I know it's taking long, but like I said, this is a presentation. This is not just a podcast episode. This is going to be as long as it takes for me to show you all this. It'll be up here and people can share it even after I'm gone from this planet, right? And or this existence, right? So check it out. So this is how it all began, right? This was like what I consider to be the worst day of my life, right? So this came to you thanks to my pain, right? I had to go through, some. Okay, so this is how it all began for me, right? Before this, I didn't know what 216 was, nor did I care for that matter, right? 216 was as alien to me as it gets, right? I didn't care about that number. It hadn't even came into my peripheral. So on 216 of 2019, my brother took his life, right? And that's how it began. I didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on. Um, I have more details in the book or the audiobook. It's there for free on my YouTube page. So you could go listen to it if you want to hear the whole story. I'm just gonna get into the whole 216 along with this slideshow, right? Because if not, I'm gonna make this like 4 hours long. So the book's already there, the audiobook's already there if you guys want to go and listen to the whole story. I'm just gonna kind of stick with the meat and potatoes of everything that happened, right? It's all very spiritual, but I'm gonna try to leave some of that out and just for the sake of time. So, anyways, when this happened, me being already so spiritually connected, I was very upset that I didn't get warned by the spirit world, right? I was very upset. They had sent me to help other people, all this stuff. I always listened. If I heard a voice, they reach out to someone, this and that. I was always very obedient, right? And sure enough, people would thank me, oh, God or an angel sent you here, or this and that, or all these things, right? So it was always confirmed to me that yes, I had these gifts. And I so when this happened, I was very upset. Why wasn't I warned? What was happening, right? But then I thought about it. Well, I did. I had reached out to him, and then he wasn't, he was giving me very short answers. So there was a sense of something. I just didn't know to what extreme it was, right? I didn't know what exactly he was going through, right? So, anyways, that happened, right? My brother, right? After that, I went down a dark place, and then I had decided that I wanted to take my life, right? Because I was very upset with the spirit world. I couldn't understand. He had a family, he had kids, this and that. I was very, he had been in the military 20 plus years. I was like, he had been deployed 3 times to war. So it was like he went through all that for what? To end up leaving like this. This is the way he leaves this world, like he deserved better, right? All like for me, all everybody that puts their life on the line like that, like they deserve better, right? So it was very my brain didn't want to take it, right? So, anyways, they would to them it was just like, oh well, PTSD, same old same, right? And then I learned statistics, right? 20 something a day, military personnel end up taking their lives. So whatever, right? We went down that, and I was so upset by it. I couldn't get out of the dark place that I had decided to do the same thing. Upon doing that night, I had a vision, right? And it was so realistic. It was like who I thought was an angel came and took me to where my brother was. They had a uniform on. It looked like they were someone where you would see someone like a colonel or a major or someone with high rank, right? It was this woman, and she was dressed, like very professional. I don't know if she was in her military like uniform kind of thing, or she was just dressed like you could tell she had authority. She took me, and then she kind of just nodded at me like, "Go ahead, go talk to your brother." And so I went, right? So to me, I'm already someone that was, like I said, I was always been spiritually in tune, very, very in tune. So I understood this with like some spirit world thing. So it was real, right? It was reality. So, anyways, I was able to go talk to my brother, all this. And then when I came to, I instantly knew like something, right? Like basically it was like they were telling, because there you speak telepathically. It was like telling me like there was some sort of agreement I understood, but they were about to show me the physical proof. So my closet didn't have a pull-up bar. I mean, it didn't have a door because it has a pull-up bar, and from my bed I could see into my closet. There was a frame, a red like frame, folder frame thing from when I had gone to the Marine Corps. Just like my brother, he was in the Marines. I had gone to the Marines too, and so I look at this folder, and as I'm laying in bed and I stand up and I look at it because of the things I was shown in this vision, I was like, I said it before I even grabbed it or before I opened it. I grabbed it from the closet. It was up on a shelf. I looked at it, I grabbed it, and I said, no effing way. And as I open it, there it is. And this goes to the next slide. Bam. I had graduated February 16, 2007. So 216, just like my brother had left on 216, I had graduated on 216 from my MOS school, which is really what you consider like when you, after the MOS schools, when it's almost like then you're technically, there. Now you did your schooling, everything. Now you're ready to go out into the field. So to me, that was like the real graduation, right? But what I noticed was that it was exactly 12 years prior to my brother going. So I was like, wait a second. So are they just showing me it was a graduation? That's all this life is, like a school. So, I knew right away. My brain, boom, boom, boom. It was like if it was already downloaded and I already had it as I woke up from this vision, right? And it was like, okay, the clock goes to 12 and return, and then it starts over. The months go to 12 and then start over. In school, we go from first grade through 12th, and then it's like higher learning. So I was like, okay, they're showing me all this thing with my brother was just a graduation. So then, and it was like agreed upon, because what are the chances? Like this was already, this was all the things that they were showing me, right? So similar to like some where the NDE, they'll show them the pre-planning. It was like I was being shown that this was an I may have not been shown my whole life, but I was shown this particular moment that was like I couldn't get out of this dark place. This instantly took me out of that dark place, because if we agreed upon it, how could I be, how could I lose it if we already agreed upon it, right? So after this, as I showed right here, 216, and just one more time, my brother right here, 216, me 216. After that, about within a month or so, it took a while because it was a military funeral. It took a while for them to put my brother's body to rest. After that, there was this artist that was murdered about uh a little over a month after my brother passed, but less than a month after his body was finally laid to rest at the military cemetery. I forgot what the exact day, it was March something. This artist named Nipsey Hussle was murdered. And I kept hearing him in my head. And I forgot to mention, after my brother passed, I became like, there was no veil anymore. I guess I needed to connect with him so badly that it was like, boom, I was traveling to the spirit world and back. I was like everywhere, right? I was seeing all these things. Uh, so it was a lot more than just that was step one, right? When they showed me the whole thing with the downloads and oh, this was all pre-planned. But then after that, it was like things just opened up. I was hearing, I had like the psychic gifts on a whole nother level. It was just something crazy, right? So after that, I was hearing this Nipsey Hussle artist. I had never listened to him. He was more of a gangster rapper, and I had outgrown that phase of my life. So I wasn't really into his music, but I was like, I keep hearing this guy's voice. I need to know why. I started looking up some of his music, and I found out there was he had some messages in some songs, but more importantly, it was his interviews. And right when he got murdered, he was about to do something huge. He was about to like meet with the Los Angeles Police Department. So here's this guy that's known as a gangster gangbanger, and he was about to have peace talks with the Los Angeles Police Department, which was unprecedented, right? He had bought a whole, like, what was it? I think they're called strip malls. Like, and he was starting all these businesses. He had an educational program for kids, just things that were unheard of, right? He was doing all these amazing things, right? And he was murdered. And also he was murdered at age 33, which was what they said, similar to like Jesus, right? Jesus being murdered at 33. Nipsey Hussle was now murdered at 33. So I wanted to look deeper into it. So anyways, I say, you know what? Let me go buy some of his music. Because I heard a couple songs that were very inspirational. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy some of his music. I keep hearing him enough that okay, I feel like I know him now or something. So, in a spiritual way. So let me just go. And then lo and behold, when I go look at his album, the last album he released before he was murdered was 216 of 2018, and it was called Victory Lap. So right then it was like, wait a second. So I graduated. My brother graduated. Nipsey Hussle's Victory Lap. So now it was like, was that it? Like he completed his mission here on Earth, right? So I, but it all started with that, right? Me graduating to show me, then in the future when my brother graduated, but now even Nipsey Hussle being a part of this, right? Like I even wanted to reach out to his family, but then I saw this thing on television, and when his mom was speaking, she was so spiritually enlightened. I saw that I was like, you know what? I'm sure his mom got it. And even one of, I think it was his stepson or something, was like, oh, he came to me in a dream and he talked to me. So I was like, oh wow, they're in good hands. They know exactly. They're tapped in to where I'm sure they're communicating directly with him. So I was like, I don't need to reach out or do nothing. But I was just like, what is this? 216, right? So it was like, wow, okay. And the fact that it was called Victory Lap, he was nominated for a Grammy, all this stuff. So, it was amazing that was like his last album. Before that, he had just done a lot of like what people call mixtapes or things. This was like his only studio album. Oh, right here, look it. It was Hustle's first major commercial release after releasing a string of mixtapes for 13 years. 13 is very important as well. Watch, it'll come up later as well. I know I was talking about the 12s, but I'll show you why 13 was so important after. So, it's all connecting right here, right? So those were the first three. And after that, I was good, right? I was already not lost. I didn't feel like, okay, what else? It was already like, okay, this life is like a school. You're showing me, you confirmed it 3 times. That's enough for me. I usually would get one vision and I would listen. So for me to get these 3 confirmations, I was like, okay, this is already good odds, right? Like they said, even the Jesus with his eight you know prophecies being fulfilled was already enough for me to get these things that even went back a year, right? So it went back 12 years with my thing, then it went back a year before my brother, and then boom with my brother. So it was already spanning to even before what led me to start looking all this up, right? So that's what made it more prophetic, that it went backwards. And so it hadn't even happened that day, but once I started going backwards, I saw that it was already present, right? So that's why it's prophetic, right? So then lo and behold, right? 2019 was the year before the pandemic. We all know after that, the pandemic came, right? And 2019 was more my pandemic. I had been going through all these things, even though I was opening up spiritually more than I had ever opened up before. Um, you know, things, the pandemic kind of stopped life for everybody, right? Things were happening. So then I right away it hit me. I was like, wait a second, man, this is freaky. Because I forgot to mention, but my main bread and butter for the last 9 years now has been acting, right? So in 2017, lo and behold, it aired in February 8th of 2017. I worked on a show called Code Black. And the episode happened to be season 2, episode 16. So 216. And it was about a pandemic. And there was an outbreak and everything was quarantined, and I was like, what? So then it got really freaky. Then I was like, wait a second. Now it did. I think that was the first time that I was like, wait, this is something more than just, oh, this is a school. They're like showing me prophecies with this. So now I happen to work on a thing, episode 216, that they just called me. I remember they called me, hey, you want to come work on this show and play a dad? And I was like, okay. And then boom. So it wasn't even something, usually with the acting, it's like I'm submitting to stuff. I'm looking for work. But this time someone called me. So that made it even more. What are the probabilities? They called me, hey, come on this show. Okay. Yeah, sure. So, and it was like, I was able to get like 5 days of work, or something like, or 5 or 6 days of work. I think it was 5. But anyway, so that's a lot, right? Like a lot of acting stuff, like one day and that's it, or stuff like that. So it was 5 days of work. So I was really happy, but it was crazy. So now that went back 2 years, right? From 2019, this went back 2 years in episode 216. And it's about, it went back 3 years from the pandemic, right? So this was a prophecy about the pandemic 3 years before it happened with the 216 attached to it, right? So that was crazy. And there's more to it that I'm going to tell you guys at the end. So wait till you hear why this is so crazy, it being 216. So whenever I finish this, if it's an hour, 2 hours, at the very end, I'm gonna tell you why this was even freakier, and it'll blow your mind, right? So then after that, I kept working. I was working as the pandemic started, right? Um, and the last show I worked on right before, we things started locking down, right? People were starting to get worried, but I think it was like, oh, go to work with a mask or different things. Or I don't even know if they were implementing the mask yet, right? There weren't even, I don't even think there were tests yet. People weren't even getting tested yet. And the last show I worked was one called Decisions. It was the season finale. So that other one was the season finale, the Code Black. That was the season finale of season 2. This is the season finale of this show, episode 216, and it was called Decisions. And it aired on March 9th, and the first lockdown for me came March 17th, right? So it aired right before the first lockdown, right? Where I was like, oh wow, I mean, they were still doing the whole essential workers thing, but it was the first lockdown was March 16th. So it was called Decisions. We all know what decisions came with the pandemic. People were, basically being told they can make this choice or lose everything, right? If you didn't want to do a certain thing, you were gonna not be able to work, you were not gonna be able to do this, do that. So the fact that it was called Decisions and it was 216 was very mind-blowing, right? So here comes another prophecy. And it wasn't gonna happen yet till what? Maybe I know it was months later. I think it wasn't even I don't even think it was before August when they first started saying, "Oh, we got this thing now, and if you don't want to get it, then you can't work." And da-da-da. I know it took a while, maybe even a year. I forgot, but So that was decisions, right? After that, those were like big ones, right? I was like, whoa, what's going on here, right? Then I just started noticing the 216 was everywhere. So this really got freaky. Like, wait a second. Like, not only is all this like a school, but it's like this thing is everywhere in our reality right now. So even 4K, which is like the common thing, right? Like even YouTube has 4K. Like, so 4K is really 4096 times 2160, right? That's the 4K. But when they put it like on TVs and computers and everything, it's not technically 4K, but they put it as 4K. It's 4K UHD, which is 3840 by again 216. So the 216 is constant, right? 2160, 2160. So I was like, what? So the fact that at the time that I was putting everything together, that 216 was the standard to look at, or might be the standard eventually, right? Because most people still use 1080, but here 216 is the way we look at screens, right? The iPhone records in 4K, now even more, right? But at that time it was like 4K, the TV's 4K, all this stuff 4K, and it's 2160, right? So I was like, what? Then I came to find out paper. One day I went to buy paper and I looked down at it, and in millimeters, it's 216 by 279. And legal paper is 216 by 56 by 356. So I was like, what? So 216 has been there all along. See, so now it's not just going back in my life. Now it's going, I don't know how long that this has been the standard, right? 8.5 by 11, which I could look up. You know what? Let me look it up. So hopefully you guys will be patient as you're watching this with me, because like I said, this is a presentation. So this is a marathon. Just like Nipsey Hussle, he was known for, that was his brand, right? The marathon continues. So this is more of a marathon, not a sprint. So hopefully you'll bear with me as I look up these facts. So I think in 1980s, early 1980s, it became the standard. So there it is. So before I think the 1980s, it wasn't the standard yet. See, so it wasn't even a thing from that far in the past, right? So in 1980s, it became the standard. That's amazing, right? Okay, so hopefully that's correct, because I saw something else, but I'm guessing the 1980s, right? So now that goes back to like even further, right? The 216 was already present. Even right now, right? Right now, at this time that I'm making this video, and I had no clue, because it was at one point like 187 or so different numbers, right? Uh, but with the acting, I'm union, and right now the rate is 216 for every 8 hours, right? Just doing background. So this is just for background work, right? For normal background work, the rate right now is 216 for 8 hours. And for non-union, it's that, right? I couldn't put, because this is always like very confidential, right? So I erased the part of where it says what the job was and this and that, right? But it says right here, like that's how the posts come when with work, right? It comes and then you submit to whatever fits you, right? So even showing you that at the time that I'm making this, like coincidentally, the union rate is 216 for 8. So there's 216 again in my everyday life, right? So it became like that. Like this one, I jumped ahead just to show it all together with the 4K, the paper, even with work, right? 216 is an everyday thing, right? So this is where after um after I saw those other things and the pandemic had already started, right? There was a lot of time to watch TV or different things, Netflix, whatever. I started like seeing movies that I guess reminded me of my brother, right? The nostalgia was kicking in. I miss my brother. So I would see movies that reminded me of him. This movie I probably would have never watched, but he loved Adam Sandler, and he kept telling me, "Oh, watch this movie, Punch Drunk Love. It's different, but watch. I like it. You'll like it. Watch. I know you'll get it." Da, da, da. So I was like, "All right, fine." And I hadn't seen it in years. It came out in 2002. See, so now we go backwards, even well, not further than the paper, but 2002. And I was watching it one day. I think it was on TV or something, and I was watching him because, like I said, it reminded me of my brother. When Adam Sandler goes to knock on the door of his love interest, Lena, lo and behold, her room number, apartment number is 216. I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me, right? Then next, I'm watching Happy Gilmore. So watch, let me play, because today when I was getting the details for Happy Gilmore, I noticed this, right? And I say it right here. Well, I'll just play the video, but basically 6/6 was my brother's birthday, right? As you saw on his headstone in the beginning, right? So check it out. Check it out. So as I'm looking up Happy Gilmore to show you the 216, so they up or it came out on February, so I haven't looked yet if it was 216, but the average rating is 6/6, which is my brother's birthday. But watch, I'm gonna show you the 216. Yeah, see, so I showed that, my brother, he left a little mark, right? The 6/6. Check it out. But then come to find out it was released on 216. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This was like my brother's favorite movie, right? 216, right? So there was two little signs, right? His birthday 6/6, the day he came to this earth, and then 216, right? 1996, the movie was released. So now we went all the way back, right? Then after that, see, so this was those kind of things were happening, right? It was like movies he liked. There were little, and this wasn't even it, right? So that was I barely found this out this morning. So this is what I was actually gonna show. That there's the scene right here where they're mentioning 216 in the Happy Gilmore movie. So that was the thing I was gonna show. So this was just extra about it being released on 216. What I was gonna show was that this.
I'm a little bit bummed though, I thought we were gonna get some money for this.
Oh, well, chill out. Next week in Portland, the winner takes home $216,000.
There it is, 216,000, the check, right? But yeah, so that was the first thing I was gonna show because I was watching that, right? And I was like, this movie, my brother loved this movie. I was watching it, reminded me of him. Next thing you know, I hear 216. I was like, what? So there's another Adam Sandler movie, two Adam Sandler movies, right? So remember that because later on it's gonna be important. It all ties in. It was like a huge jigsaw puzzle, right? Like I said, it took over 4 years for me to put all these pieces together, right? As I was being shown. So the book, I wrote it in real time. It's like as things were happening to me. So, I wrote a second edition within weeks after I had published the first edition because I was like, what in the world? And I'm going to get to that. So, okay, so that was the thing, right? These nostalgic movies were coming up and they were all embedded with 216. Any movie that my brother like used to quote stuff like what was it? Oh, I think it was another Adam Sandler movie, but he would always be quoting Adam Sandler movies. But even this one, right? He would always quote things from it. Watch. Let me see the okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, so even this, right? So after that, I was like, what is this, right? I started thinking, like, is this all like some kind of Matrix? And lo and behold, the movie The Matrix, 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I was like, wait a second. So is that the message that all this is just a Matrix, right? Just like how in the beginning, right? I thought the message was it's a school, but it's not just a school. It's like, when people call it a matrix, it's like we really are in some kind of matrix. And at that point, I had already seen glitches in the matrix, recorded glitches in the matrix. So I'm like, so this really is some kind of matrix, right? Like a school or whatever. Or, it's scary to think that someone's controlling it. But then I was like, whoa, was I put in here to like show this? Am I supposed to show this? Or are the agents gonna come after me? And I was having the weirdest experience. Sometimes I'd be on the phone as I'm driving, right? But it'd be like Bluetooth, so don't think I was holding up a phone or nothing. And cars will be coming on the wrong side of the road, and it never failed. Every time I was having a deep spiritual conversation with someone as I'm driving and talking through the Bluetooth, a car will be coming on the wrong side of the road, and the people would look confused, like they didn't even know where they were. So I was like, there were so many reasons why I thought, okay, so this is all a matrix, and there's the 216 to show not just a school, but also a matrix of sorts, right? And in the matrix also, right, when they get plugged in, it's like they're learning, like when Neo's first learning, like the kung fu and this and that, and the weapons training and all this. So it was like, are we just here like getting downloaded with all these things we're supposed to learn? And then we go on after, right? So this was another thing, right? Okay, 216 and the Matrix movie, right? Then James Bond, right? And the movie was called Skyfall. It was released. Let me see, these little things in the way right here. 2012, right? So Skyfall was released in 2012, and I was watching it during the pandemic. I don't think I had ever saw it when it was released in 2012. I wasn't the biggest James Bond fan. I did like the older James Bond, with Sean Connery, and then the one that I think was it Roger Moore or something like that. I forgot. But anyways, you see at the end scene, the very end scene of Skyfall. Here's the car. The only numbers here are 216, right? So it's BMT 216A. So I was like, what? So then it felt like, are they doing it on purpose? I was even thinking that. Are these people in these movies doing it on purpose? Is that what this is, right? It's really strange that 216 keeps coming out in these movies. Right? The Matrix. I even thought, okay, are they trying to program us? Like, what is it about this 216? Why are they putting it in all these movies? This is weird. Because at first I thought, okay, it's just what a coincidence. My brother must have left these cookie crumbs for me or whoever, right? These angels that visited me, my brother, God, whoever is leaving me these cookie crumbs for some reason, right? So, anyways, there it was, right? 216 Skyfall. 2012. Well, here's the thing, right? Just like the Matrix came out in 1999, which was supposed to be a year when Y2K was gonna come, the world was gonna end. 2012 was another the world's gonna end year, and it's called Skyfall, like the sky is falling, and it was supposed to be the whole Mayan prophecy, right? But although you know people mistranslated it, because being someone that's very aware of my indigenous culture, I know that by far they didn't mean that, oh, the world was gonna end how westernized thought was saying it. It was more of a cyclical way, right? Like this, the way they had it down was that this world goes in cycles, right? Which is probably why I'm able to show all these things. So anyway, let me go next, because like I said, it's a lot of information. But then again, like I said, it's gonna be long. So if I need to go into detail, I'll just go into detail. But like I said, it was a year when the world was supposed to end, according to Western thought, just like in 1999 with the Matrix 216, and that's when Y2K and all the computers were gonna shut down and it was gonna be chaos. So it's funny that they put 216 there, they put 216 here. So then this is where it got crazy, right? So if you're seeing the screen, this is when things really got crazy. I mean, I don't know if it was within a year, like I think this might have happened, I might have jumped ahead, right? Because of time. I could always look at the screenshot and see the exact dates, right? But this is where it got crazy, because one day I was cleaning, and it might have been already during the pandemic. That's fine. Um, so I'm not 100% sure, or it was pre-pandemic when this happened. But I was cleaning and I wasn't even watching this. I'm not someone that I even stopped talking to people when they would tell me conspiracy stuff, because I'd be like, I'm not in the mood for this. But I was cleaning, probably listening to music, and then a video came on after on YouTube that it was a guy talking about, the mark of the beast. They're already making these chips that people could put in their hands, and the model number is NTAG 216. And I was like, what? And then he goes to say that 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. So then right away, my head goes to like the biblical stuff, right? Because I'm very familiar with the Bible. So I was like, what? 216 is 6 times 6 times 6? What in the world? So then my head just went for a loop, because I was like, okay, what were you taught? First, you were trying to tell me this was just a school. Then it was like you're showing me prophecies. And now it's like, again, it felt prophetic, right? Okay, so maybe you just wanted to get my attention because this is what's important, because this hasn't happened yet. This is what it's all about. That, in the future, they're going to really try to do this. This is really what we're headed towards, the cashless society. If you don't put this chip in, uh, you can't buy nothing. And then this is what made it crazier. If you see right here, it says 888 bytes, that these things have 888 bytes. On 216, the morning that my brother passed, I had stopped to take a picture of this job, right? It was this place that said 888. Watch, let me go. I'll come back. Oh, here it is, right? So I stopped to take this picture of these 888, right? And you could see right here, I put this on purpose so you could see Saturday, February 16, 2019 at 9:58 a.m., right? I think I took it before that, but that's when I probably got home, uploaded it into my computer. Saturday, February 16, 2019. So I didn't even know yet that my brother had passed. I didn't find out till that day, like at 1 p.m. So 216, 2019, I had taken a photo of 888. And when I took this photo and then another one from a side angle, that when you look at it, it looked like just 1 8. and I uploaded it to Instagram, IG, for those that just know the abbreviations now. And I put not everything is as it seems because it looked like 1/8, but it was really the 3/8, right? So I put that up. Not everything is as it seems. And lo and behold, this whole thing that I started going, I didn't know that I was about to embark on this whole journey, right? So I had taken a picture of that on 216. Oh, and see, even this, right? I had this VHS. Well, let me come back to that after. So when I saw 216, 888, and on 216, I took a picture of an 888. I was like, this is insane. So this is real. That's what they're showing me. Because there was no way that could have happened. Probably even that probability alone was worth like how they said winning the lottery. That the fact that I had on 216 randomly taken a photo of an 888, and then lo and behold that they had these chips NTAG 216 with 888 bytes, right? So that was already mind-boggling. So many moments where there's no way my brain could wrap around it. And this is my birthday. The fact that the price of these, when I screenshotted this is my birthday, 6/9, June 9th. My brother's birthday was June 6th. Mine was June 9th. That's why I felt this bond with him, right? Because our birthdays, even though he was older, our birthdays were only, 7, 8, 9, 3 days apart, right? 6 and 9, right? So, right, like a yin and yang, even. See, it's very, very interesting, the connection, right? So that's why when they showed, oh, we had agreed upon all this, there was so many things that just like my brain like fractured to where that's why I was able to be open to all the spiritual stuff. I was like, okay, I'm open. Like, show me whatever you want, because it was just so. That's why I even took so long to reveal all this stuff, right? Revelations, because I didn't feel like people will they be able to handle this thing. I've told people certain things where it looked like their brains were about to explode, and I'm not even playing. It's not an exaggeration. Where people are like, no, no, this can't be real. Oh no, no, I'm just playing. I'm just playing, because I was like, oh wow, people really can't handle certain things. So that's why I've always been cautious, right? So, anyways, this was $69 in US. And then even on this one, right, that same thing, NTAG 216. And I think these are pounds. I don't know if these, so even there, it's like 69 pounds. So I'm like, wow, the 69 again right here. Look at NTAG 888 bytes, right? So even in other countries or whatever, I don't know. It was just interesting, right? So again, I felt like, okay, I'm supposed to talk about this. This is my little thing, right? The fact that my birthday's on there. And then lo and behold, this is many years ago when VHSs were still around. I had been given this tape about the mark of the beast, right? These chips that were going to be implanted. This thing was published in 1998. So now we went all the way back to that. I mean, obviously it's already from the Bible, but and it was again it was published on my birthday. So I was like, oh wow, I was meant to talk about this. And I put a posting on this before. I had put a post about it on Instagram before I even saw that this tape had came out on my birthday. So those are like a form of synchronicities. When you see things attached to your birthday, for those that know the spiritual stuff, um, it's almost like a guidance, right? Everybody wants to know their purpose and this and that. So a lot of times when your birthday's coming out, it's definitely an indicator. Well, yeah, this is part of your purpose, right? Your agreement, if you will. I was shown that, right? So that's kind of what all this is. This is part of my agreement. I can't speak for anybody else, right? Everybody else's life is different, but this is I did the work, right? They showed me the cookie crumbs and I followed, and that's my thing, right? I started researching, boom, boom, boom. So that's why all these things kept revealing themselves, right? So then I thought that, okay, so to sum this thing up, I was like, wow, so that's my whole purpose in this existence, to warn people about this mark of the beast. All this 216, me going through the worst day of my life, losing my brother, was really just to warn people in the future about this whole 216. I mean, the mark of the beast, right? That's what I thought. Um, that's it, right? Like at that moment, that's when I was like, okay, that's it. All the stuff, the Nipsey hustle, this and that, everything is all to warn people not to get this thing. And sure enough, during the pandemic, people started getting things and they started selling it already. Oh, that way you don't touch the dirty money. We don't spread the diseases. I forgot what country people were already putting these chips in. So I was like, oh my God, it's too late. Like I failed to bring awareness, but luckily it didn't happen yet, right? I feel that they will try again, right? When there will be another thing then it'll be like, oh, you have to get this, right? If you don't get this, then you can't buy stuff. You can't this, you can't that, right? And that goes to the biblical thing, right? So let me read this real quick. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600 threescore and six. So that's 666, right? So then it was like, oh wow, like, the mark of the beast. This is what it's all about, right? This whole 216 journey was just like they prophesied about the pandemic, right? With that thing I had worked on, and then the decisions, and then all this stuff. I was like, oh wow, so this is the whole message, right? Then I had even went back and found an old song I released on 216 again of 2011. And the whole song is about not selling my soul. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it. They tell me, sell my soul, but I don't know why. I'm staring at the prize, but the devil, he lies. He said I can't be free, but they still can't stop me. I'm fighting till I die. So the Lord, won't you guide me? So that was the whole thing. So Lord, won't you guide me? And here I am being guided with all this 216 information. And so see, going back 8 years before what happened with my brother, I'm being shown about this song that I'm talking about not selling my soul, right? Like no matter what. So I'm just blown away. Um, yeah. So anyways, and this adds up to 10. So I don't know if that's like a completion thing or what. I just look at all that stuff. But okay, so then it was all connected. That whole thing was all with that whole mark of the beast thing, right? So I was like, what in the world just happened? So after that, I thought, okay, that's it. That's the message. I'm gonna stop seeing it now. I even made a video about it, which later on I made private because yeah, I was still in my head like, oh, people are gonna think I'm nuts. This is like, I got scared. I had left it out. I put up the video. I saw people were even watching it, and then I got scared. I was like, oh, I took it down and everything, you know. And after, like, this actually happened years later. After I had started this podcast, I was interviewing someone, and they're the ones that told me, oh, when I was telling them, oh, this 216, and right away they went to the numerology thing, which is another reason why it's good to make this, because people always go, I say 216, they go, oh, nine, that's endings. And it is, but it was like a lot. They weren't getting what I was showing, right? Like, that's why I wanted to make this, so they could really see how deep it is, right? Like, so I could show the probabilities of this, that, right? So, anyways, I was interviewing someone that goes by the name Aquarius Maximus. And right away, I tell them about the 260. Oh, then that's nine. I was like, but it was more. They're like, oh, well, even that movie Black Panther, um, it was released on 216. And that made me trip out because it was released on the same, 216 of 2018, I believe, right? 216. I don't know why this. Oh yeah, January. So first it was released it premiered in a theater January 29th, but it was released 216 of 2018, which was the same year that Nipsey Hussle's album was released. They both like kind of did huge, right? This was like the number one selling movie. See, it grossed 1.3 billion worldwide and broke numerous records at the time it came out. But then they both ended up passing away, right? Um, Kind of tragically, right? Like Chadwick Boseman, he passed away from cancer, and then Nipsey Hussle was murdered. So I was like, wow, it's crazy. They both did these amazing things, but then that was it. So I was like, wow, was this because I remember when Black Panther came out, it was very uplifting. It seemed like for people of whether African descent or African American descent, but people were very proud of the film. Some people were, of course, like, this is just more Hollywood stuff, whatever. But I saw the inspiration behind little kids and this and that. The same way Nipsey Hussle was inspiring people it was like I have friends that were like, oh, the whole reason I do music is because of Nipsey Hussle, right? So, these were very inspirational people, and then boom. So I was like, okay, here it is again in that sense, right? Did they complete their mission, and then boom, they went on after the 216, which, like they said, it's a number 9, which means endings. So was this kind of their ending, and then they moved on to the higher learning, right? They graduated from this school for fulfilling their destiny, right? So this was very interesting. Once that Black Panther came out too, it wasn't that like altering, but it kind of fit into the whole puzzle that I was building, right? Oh, I didn't even see that I had moved this little screen thing. Then it was crazy because, I think it was still in 2019 when I don't even remember when I released it. I would have to look at the date, but I did this song for my brother, and I didn't even. It was just my way of venting. Very short song. But when I ended up putting it out after, for some reason, I don't know why, I checked it, and the last strum of the guitar, like it's strummed, and then whoa, he releases and it makes this little sound, and it was exactly on 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And I was like, what in the world? And I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened like that, right? So I'm gonna play it right here. And then when he passed away, I had a voicemail from him that was actually on 116. I know 116, I'm sure it has meaning as well. 116, exactly a month before he passed, he had left a voicemail. And I watch, I'm gonna play it right here, exactly what it said. Watch.
Hey, what's up, Omar? You said to wake you up.
So I don't know if you heard it. Watch, I'll play it again.
Hey, what's up, Omar? You said to wake you up.
So that last strum, that very last strum, what do you call it? Was on 260, and then that voice where he says like, "Hey, what's up, Omar? You said to wake you up," or something like that, right? So he was telling me he was gonna wake me up, and I remember when I heard it, I was hiking and I saw, when did I get this message, right? I think I saw it till like, imagine he had left me that voicemail on 116, and I didn't see it till after he passed away. I don't even know if it was after we had put the body to rest. And I'm hiking in the hills, and I'm like, what? I look at it and I play it, and I hear his voice, and I hear him say, "You told me to wake you up." And my knees just gave out. I fell to my knees. I just started crying like nobody's business, right? I just broke down, like letting it, but I instantly got it. Like, whoa, you said to wake you up. Like, wow, this was this whole thing to wake me up, right? Like this whole thing that you were about to lead me down, right? So I was blown away, right? So this song was very important because of that. So it was like I think it happened before a lot of these things that I showed, right? But I think in the book, this is the sequential order I put it in. So that's why I followed this sequential order, because this is how I put it in the book, right? So let me go to the next slide. So now it got crazy, right? After that, for some reason, after all that time, I decided to look up the number online to see if there was something else. After all this time, I had never looked it up, just typed it into Google or something. All of this, I was being led, and I hadn't even looked it up myself. So it finally dawned on me, like, wait, why haven't I looked up this number? And sure enough, the first thing that popped up was, most interpreters argue that the value of Plato's number is 216 because it is the cube of 6, i.e., 6 to the third power, which is 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216, which is remarkable for also being the sum of the cubes for the Pythagorean triple, which we all know. See, and 3, 4, 5, and then da, 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 and then 6 to the third power, 6 times 6 times 6. So we all know Pythagoras is what? He's like given credit for modern mathematics and all that, I believe. So this was a big deal, right? Because then it sent me down another rabbit hole. I was thinking like, okay, wait a second. What if, right? My brain started going into the what if. Well, let me finish this real quick. So this is where it comes from, Plato's number, and it is confusing, but when I read it, I thought I got it, and I think I did, but once I read it after, I was like, okay, maybe it's more confusing. But it says, from Wikipedia right here, you see. Plato's number is a number enigmatically referred to by Plato in his dialogue, The Republic. The text is notoriously difficult to understand, and its corresponding translations do not allow an unambiguous interpretation. There is no real agreement either about the meaning or the value of the number. It also has been called the geometrical number or the nuptial number, the number of the bride. So right away, it made me think of like biblical things, right? The number of the bride. It talks a lot about the bride, right? And biblical things, right? Being the bride, stuff like that. The passage in which Plato introduced the number has been discussed even ever since it was written. So we're talking about, I don't know if Plato was BC or, I think, let me see. Let me look real quick. So just to show you, then that took it to a whole nother level because it was like not only I guess the biblical thing of the mark of the beast. So that took it back. Like I don't know if that was BC too. I think. Well, no, it's supposed to be after, right? That means those books were written after, right? Supposedly. So let me see. When was Plato alive? So 348 BCE, 347 BCE, right? So yeah, so now we're going all the way back to BCE or whatever, right? Um, with this number, right? So now Plato's talking about it. Pythagoras is talking about it. I'm not gonna look up when Pythagoras was alive because that's already enough to say Plato was already using this number. So then I'm like, wait a second. So I am pretty sure the Bible, or from what we know of it, these other things were written. Um, especially the book of Revelations, right? If it's the last book, oh, I get that, right? Even that, the Bible, I think it says, or the Bible we know now. I don't know if it's the Old Testament or something. It has 66 books, which again, my brother's birthday, right? 66. So I was like, okay, then those things started jumping out at me more. Okay, there's something deeper going on here, right? The fact that we agreed to all this, and so it just started showing me all these things, right? So, anyways, um, so I believe Plato was before. So then I started thinking, okay, what if here's Plato saying that this is the perfect number, but why are the Bible saying that, oh, it's the mark of the beast, 6 times 6 times 6? But here 216, which equals 6 times 6 times 6, is the perfect number, the number of the bride. So then it was confusing. It's like we know all the evil stuff the church has done. So why is it so hard to imagine that they demonize that number, that this number does have this sacred teaching for humanity, and they just demonized it, right? So then my brain started going into that direction. Like, wait a second, we went on down all that road, and maybe that they use it for evil, right? Oh, well, we're gonna they demonize that number on purpose, because why call a chip that they're putting into your as the mark of the beast? Why? It's almost like when they say, like, not to get into this, right? Whatever. I don't care what religion you are. But like in the movies and everything, when they show, like, oh, there's the cross that's supposed to represent the holiness and everything. And when they do it upside down, it's the satanic thing, right? That's the evil. So I was like, wow, why wouldn't they dirty up? If this is something that's this perfect number and there's all these things to it, the number of the bride, why wouldn't they dirty it up and then use it for the mark of the beast and all this, use it for this thing, whether it was predictive programming with the pandemic thing and how that episode was 216 and all this stuff. So then my brain started going in that direction. Okay, so what are you guys showing me now? Right? It says right here, the passage in which Plato introduced the number has been discussed ever since it was written, with no consensus in the debate. As for the number's actual value, 216 is the most frequently proposed value for it, but 3600 or 12,960 are also commonly considered, right? So there's all this thing, right? So hopefully you're all following along with me, right? Just how, because this is how I went down the rabbit hole, right? There was just so many things. That's why if I really went into every little nook and cranny, we're talking about like a 10-hour video I would have to make. And we're exactly like at the halfway point right now, I think. Or I think this last part goes a little quicker, right? So here we go. Then for some reason, it was almost like if something whispered it into my ear, just like out of nowhere, right? And it was like, I remembered like the Pyramid of the Sun, because we went there when I was a little kid. And me and my two brothers, my brother that passed away, my other brother and myself, we climbed to I remember climbing to the very top of the pyramid. My dad and my mom stayed at the bottom because, this huge Pyramid of the Sun, Teotihuacan, right? It's in Teotihuacan. It's called Tenochtitlan. That's the Pyramid of the Sun, right? And when I saw this, I don't know why I was led to it. It just like something whispered in my ear. I looked it up. Lo and behold, right here, right? Pyramid of the Sun, large pyramid in the ancient city of Teotihuacan, Mexico, that was built about 100 CE, right? So going back again, and is one of the largest structures of its type in the Western Hemisphere. The pyramid rises 216 feet, 66 meters above ground level, and it measures, and whatever. I just wanted to screenshot that. And this is the editors of Encyclopedia Encyclopedia Britannica article history. So it was fact checked, right? So that's the day, my brother's birthday and his departure date. So that's when it was really like, wait a second. So it took it to another level. Your birth date and the day you left this earth was already written into this pyramid, right? That's such an important symbol. It even went into like the Plato thing, right? Showing because these are cultures that the church came and demonized and destroyed, right? Like the indigenous people, right? When the Spanish came and you know colonized Mexico and destroyed so many ancient artifacts and this and that, just like it was said over there, right? All the Greek things were called mythology and destroyed and all these things, right? And then the church stuff came in. So then I was like, wait a second. So it took it more into that direction of like, so is this 216 really something deeper, right? Like we know the pyramids, they have these sacred frequencies and this and that people have even found healing in, right? Like there's these, they give off these vibrations that heal people and this and that. These amazing things, right? I know people have done studies where they'll go with a tuning fork and measure out the frequencies or different things, right? I don't know if I said it from the beginning, but I'm by no means a mathematician. I was shown this in a different way. I was shown I think more from an emotional stance, right? Because these were all things attached to my life that brought some kind of I don't know, an emotional memory so I wouldn't forget, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but so then it was crazy. Then it was like, wait a second. So my brother's birthday and his departure date were already in this sun pyramid that we happened to go to when we were kids. And there was the pyramid of the moon. You could see it over there, but we didn't even make it because we ran out of time, right? So you could see the huge pyramid, the moon of the pyramid of the moon over there, but we only climbed the sun pyramid, and lo and behold, they had 216, right? So here I am as proof, right? I look like a little notorious BIG when I was little. Here I am on top of the pyramid of the sun. You can see the pyramid of the moon in the background. And here it is right before I climbed it. Look how huge it is, right? 216 feet, right? 66. Just to show proof that we went, right? I don't want like anyone to think that, oh, I'm just making this stuff up, right? This is why all these things were relevant. They were jumping out because they were very like they wanted things in this whole life, my pre-planned life in a way, right? Even though we don't get to remember everything, that's a whole nother thing. Maybe I'll touch on it a little at the end. But so there it is, right? I was there. So, because the pyramid of the moon, I don't know how I was led to it. There was significance, the sun, the moon. Lo and behold, the diameter of the moon is 2159, less than a mile shy of 2160. So I don't know. Have they actually measured it? Like, what if it is 2160? Or I don't know. Maybe chunks were taken off with rocks hitting it. But just the fact that it's so close in diameter to 216 kind of blew my mind. I was like, all right, that's a little too close. So the moon is supposed to be 1/4 the size of the Earth, but even that the moon is it's pretty close to 216. So I thought that was funny, right? The sun pyramid 216 feet high, and then you could see the moon pyramid in the back. So that kind of led me to look up the moon, and there it is, right? So I was like, wow, everything really is created. This whole life, whether it's the matrix, the school, this whole thing, we're here to learn and to change things. So this is why these things are important, right? I forgot to mention that when my brother passed, odd things would happen, right? For example, you know, like one day I was driving. And right when I was about to turn around, my radio was like at volume 22 or something. And it by itself just went down to 13 and it stopped. And I remembered, you know, thanks to the world of probably rap music, I knew what every letter, like the numbers are, right? So right away when I saw 13, I know that that's for the letter M, right? 13 M. And so I knew it was my brother. So I was like, okay, you want me to keep going? Sure enough, I went and I found out that there were eagles in those mountains. And, for a long time after he had passed away, I was going every day to visit the eagles. It brought me a lot of peace, but my brother led me there. Sometimes I'd be going down a highway and there's those little speedometer things, and I'd be doing at least like 50, and the speedometer would say 13, and then it like flicker over to 06. So I was like, okay, my brother's birthday, and then the 13 for the M, right, as well. So you could see one of the things I wanted to talk about was, for example, this is why the bond too, right? Because when I was little, sometimes like we would share a cake, right? Because our birthdays were so close. Let's say they were during that week, maybe on Saturday we'd celebrate, and you know, it'd be one cake, right? So there was a lot of you know, a lot of closeness there, right? I don't know how else to put it, but anyways, and it's funny that the only picture I have of one of the cakes that we shared, it was my 13th birthday, and like I said, the number 13th would become very significant. I know earlier we saw it. I forgot already why. You know, if you're watching this, you can go back and see why I mentioned that the 13 was important. I know it was there was some reason that 13th popped up, right? I wish I could remember right now. I don't want to scroll all the way back, but 13 was important. So 13, 13, right? He was communicating a lot with me with the 13 because he knew I got it, right? The M 13, this and that, right? Or the oh 06, it would be oh 06, 13. I'm telling you, the radio moved by itself and stopped at 13. So different things like that, right? So after all that, right, being guided like this and that, I was like, I think I was cleaning one day or something, and again, this popped up by itself because sometimes I was listening to like uh chakra things and this and that for healing, right? I already was aware of that, right? I would look at different things, and so I think one day this one just played by itself. It was like, what? Like then it really got, you know, because the different chakras, right? And the crown chakra, we know that that's what connects you to like the spirit world or whatever. See, right here, reconnects with the spirit. Crown chakra, frequency 216 hertz, the healing benefits. So I was like, what? And so I was blown away. I was like, wait a second. So what if now, see, it took me through another loop. What if the whole journey was to lead me to a frequency? Because I had, you know, even the book is called The Secrets of the Universe. So from the beginning, it was like, wait a second, was it all just to guide me to connect me to this 216 frequency that is going to connect me? I was already being connected to the spirit world because of all the trauma, but on another level, a frequency of 216, right? And it wasn't just this one thing. So you could see, because there's different ones. I've even seen people say that the crown chakra is a different frequency, but look at just to show you how many there were. 216, that one. Here's another video. Healing frequency 216 hertz, crown chakra meditation, reconnect with your higher self. Crown chakra frequency 216 hertz reconnects with the spirit world energies of the spiritual world. So then that's why I was thinking, wow, so did the church just demonize 216? All this 666 stuff, was the church doing it to, you know, that's why they use it in these evil ways so we never connect. So instead, when we see 216 or something, we think, no, that's of the devil. Imagine here, this frequency is supposed to connect us to the spirit world or to God or, you know, the higher source, the higher power. And the church already brainwashed us that this is an evil number, even making it this mark of the beast purposefully to make sure we stay away from it. So then that my brain's going in that direction, right? It's like what's going on here, right? So that's why I'm telling you, it's so much information, right? So this was over the course of 4 years that all this stuff was being shown to me. So now it's on this level. Like, wait a second, this is a frequency that connects us to the spirit world, to God. Like, whoa, what is this? Right? Look at crown chakra frequency 216 connects with the spirit. The crown chakra, also called Sahasra Sahasrara, is represented by a purple lotus with 1,000 petals. This is located at the level of the fontanelle above the head. It is directed vertically upward where it opens. The crown chakra coincides with the energy crown forming on the head as the Kundalini energy moves in a harmonious manner. So now this is blowing my mind, right? I'm confused at this point. I don't know what's what, right? I'm like trying to figure out, like, okay, what's up with this 216? What is it? Like, is it just showing me my pre-planning that this is all a school, it's a matrix, it's prophecies too. So I'm supposed to always be aware, you know, the pandemic, them trying to give us the mark of the beast. Then it takes it for a loop, or wait a second, all these old uh philosophers and this and that, you know, people that had higher learning were demonized. And was that it? Really, it's all like, you know, and it's fine because it's like a movie, right? You see a movie, you see the whole story, there's all these twists and turns. So this is like my movie now. This is my life in a movie kind of format. and it's taking me through all these twists and turns. So if you you know what I mean, it's like a thriller. It really is. I'm like hanging on the edge of my seat as I'm going through all these things, right? I'm like, what? Every time I would find something new, it's like my brain was about to explode, right? So here it is. And then I was led to this. I was like, and this is what I ended the first book with, actually. This is how I ended it. It was like, boom, okay. So I guess, man, all that stuff, and maybe this is all it is. It really is a good number that's meant to connect you. They just use it in these evil ways. Maybe they're predictive programming us. Like, why are they putting it in these Adam Sandler movies? Uh, why are they putting it in James Bond? Right? I think I forgot to enter the clip, but it was even like in the movie Barbershop, the same. Just like, see, and doors. Why, when you knock on a door and the door opens, is that more symbolic towards this, that you were supposed to open that door so that we could connect with our higher self? When he connects on the door of love, when he knocks on the door of love, right? Adam Sandler for his love interest. But then on the Barbershop movie, they knock on the door 216 to find something. Like they're trying to be nosy, but not in a bad way, because yeah, someone inside is up to no good. So someone's trying to knock, and the apartment number is 216, and they're trying to creep in there, like, what's going on in there? And it's 216, right? So there's a door again, 216 opening a door, right? And here we are with this stuff, right? So that was on the movie Barbershop with Ice Cube. And there's this scene where I think Anthony Anderson, that comedian, like he's up to no good in that movie, and they steal an ATM and they have it inside this apartment. And I think then it catches on fire, but the door number is 216. I was like, what? This is crazy, right? So then I think that ended that, right? So I would say this will be like an intermission if you want to pause it, and then we'll go into the other thing. I'm gonna keep going, obviously, but for you, if you want to pause it, because I think this is like the halfway point. But like I said, after this, it speeds up. This was the first book, right? Before I made the second edition, this is exactly where I ended it. I was already mind blown, right? Within like, I don't even think, I think it was that's why it was funny. This movie was called Next, and the very next day after I published the book, I saw this movie. And see, this movie was from 2007, but obviously I didn't see it till, when did I publish the book? 2022, I want to say. I published in 2022. I don't want to look right now, but what do you call it? But yeah, I think it was 2022 when I published. Might have been 2023. Let me look up real quick. I don't want to. I think it's important to the timeline to to say when exactly I published the book, right? Let me see real quick. Oh, there. Wow, it popped up right away. I accidentally just put my first name, and let me see when it was published. March 24, 2023. Okay. So just last year, right? 2023, I came out with the book, right? And the very next day after I published the book, lo and behold, this. So listen up. I'm going to play this real quick, right? And this movie was from 2007, but I didn't see it till 2023. So I had to take this out due to copyright. But basically, the man says at one point there was a 2 minute, 16-second delay. Then the woman says maybe 216 is too long. He can't see that far. So as you see on this one, they said it twice. So I think all those other movies, even the Happy Gilmore, I really hadn't seen that they said it more than once. I think I had just seen the check. I didn't even hear when the lady had said, "Oh, you went 216" or something like that. But when this one, they said it twice back to back. Oh, 216 and then 216. So like, what? I paused it, I rewinded it. I was like, no way. So I just published the book, but right away I knew, okay, there's more to it. The very next day, I see this movie called Next, and they say 216 twice. And it's about a guy that sees the future, right? So I had said they were already showing me all these kind of predictive things with the number. Now here's this movie with Nicolas Cage called Next, where he sees the future. And so I'm like, okay, here we go. The journey continues, right? Let me go. Okay. So then for some reason, after I published the book, also, I looked it up, right, to make sure it was published, and a few 216 things came out. This one was a puzzle, right? And there's the nines again, 9x9 grids, 216 blank classic, so Sudoku 9x9 grid. So the fact that it was like, why 216? You could have put 230, 220. So the fact that it was a puzzle and 216 kind of got my attention. Oh, how interesting that out of all numbers you use 216 for puzzle stuff, right? Mathematics, puzzles, all this stuff, right? Then there was another book, The 216 Letter Hidden Name of God Revealed. And I was like, huh. I was like, the name of God, 216. What are they talking about, right? So this got my attention. So by Lucian Khan. So it got my attention. I filed it away and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to that. And then I looked up if there was a link to the guy, or I looked him up and I think I typed his name and a YouTube video popped up, and then I went down the rabbit hole of this man, Lucian Khan, right? Because he seemed to be like this mathematician and he had a story. The way this 216 number appeared to him was he said that, and I'm gonna put links to his channel or whatever, because I definitely think you should. He made like, I don't know, like at least 10 videos about this 216 where he breaks it down mathematically. And see, I think in the great scheme of things, he was meant to do it that way, just like I was meant to do it this way, because I don't talk that mathematic language, right? And like I said, some people, and the things, yeah, I would have never discovered the things he discovered. He discovered some other stuff. But his story, according to what I saw, was, and you can watch his videos so you could see the way he describes it. But and a lot of people on this page, I guess, not doesn't have any ratings, but on Amazon, you can see a lot of people bought his book and everything. So this one that I happened to screenshot, what do you call it? But on the other one, people were, I guess, buying his book and everything. I forgot what year he published it. It was before too. So this went back as well. I don't know what year, 2010 or maybe before this happened to him. So he said that one night he woke up, he had to go use the bathroom. He grabbed his phone, I guess, for the light or something. He went to the bathroom and he had looked at his phone. After he finished peeing, he looked at his phone again. He was quiet so he wouldn't wake up his wife. He went. And when he finished peeing, he looked at his phone and he was like, what? And then he did the math, and that 216 minutes had gone by and he didn't remember anything. Where did he go for those 216 minutes? And he already had some sense of 216. I guess he knew about this other stuff. And so he went down the rabbit hole because he was like, what? Did I just disappear for 216 minutes? All I did was go pee. Like, I literally just went pee. Where did I go for 216 minutes? Right. I even reached out to him. I messaged him on Facebook, left him a comment on his YouTube video. I emailed him. Never got back to me. I wanted, because I was so excited, like, oh wow, I just wrote a book about 216. And here you have a book about 216, but you're talking about math. I'm talking about my life. I was embedded into my life, right? Like pre-planning all this stuff. So I was like, dude, together it'd be this amazing interview to show how you came at it. So obviously the, source or the creator, someone's bringing this message to the world through me and this guy, right? Like him mathematically, me in this other way, right? So then, I was watching videos. Um, Wait. So then after, okay, so I don't think I had seen. I think before I even watched his videos, I started looking up because of that, right? How he said the name of God. I wanted to know why the name of God. I think I looked up 216 name of God, and this popped out, right? So what does the number 216 mean in Hebrew? 216 is the numerical value of Jehovah. I don't know, it's like Jehovah, Javura. I don't know, Javura. The fifth Sephirot in the Kabbalistic tree of life, and the sum of the letters in God's 72 hidden names, right? So I guess God has 72 names, which would be 3 letters each, which would be 72 times 3 is 216. As cubed, 666 equals 216. Also symbolic of the mark of the beast in Christianity. This was published on my birthday again. See, so these are the little things where it's like, oh, I was meant to share this. I'm on the right track, right? My birthday, synchronicities, right? Excuse me. So that was that, right? Then the idea of a 216 letter name of God is actually taken from real Jewish history and belief. The 216 letter name of God, the Shem Hamforas, is actually derived from 3 verses in Exodus, verses 19, 20, and 21, each being 72 letters long, right? So it's talking about each verse of those 72 letters long, and that adds up to a 216 letter name of God. So this is what, I guess, the old Jewish history, and I guess those that whether the ones that wrote the Torah or all these things, they believe that the name of God was this 216 letter name, right? So I'm like, oh wow. So all this stuff led me to the real name of God. Like this was amazing, right? I already felt like God was guiding me with this whole thing, right? Mark of the beast, boom, boom, all this stuff. So now I was like, wait a second, but it's the name of God. So again, it goes with the maybe everything that's meant for God, they try to make it the backwards, right? Like the upside down cross. So I was like, all right, maybe 216 is the name of God, but that 666 is like they're trying to dirty it up. I don't know. So then it led me to this, right? And I think this was thanks to watching already the video that Lucian Khan had made. I think he talked about sacred geometry, right? And Metatron's cube and all this. So let me read this. This is by Whitney Hopler. And I guess it was updated this year. In sacred geometry, Archangel Metatron, the angel of life, oversees the flow of energy in a mystical cube known as Metatron's cube, which contains all of the geometric shapes in God's creation and represents the patterns that make up everything God has made. These duties tie in with Metatron's work overseeing the tree of life in Kabbalah, where Metatron sends creative energy down from the top, the crown, of the tree upward all the parts of creation. Oh, of the tree toward all the parts of creation. Here's how you can use Metatron's cube for inspiration and transformation. So here's this thing called Metatron's cube that is in every single thing in life, right? It contains all the shapes, geometrical shapes in the creation of God. So everything made has this Metatron's cube in it. But see, this is where it tied into the Lucian Khan, uh, that man that made all that stuff because he explained it, right? So he explains it. Watch. Oh, okay. Well, let me go still, right? Because after I showed some of the things he said, Metatron's cube and all the shapes in creation. Archangel Metatron's cube contains every shape that exists in the universe God has created, and those shapes are the building blocks of all physical matter. They are known as platonic solids because the philosopher Plato linked them to the spirit world of heaven and the physical elements on earth. See, so Plato was able to do it to show that there was this combination, right, of earth and heaven. Those three-dimensional shapes appear throughout creation in everything from crystals to human DNA. So it's even in our DNA, this Metatron's cube. In her book, Metatron, Invoking the Angel of God's Presence, Rose Van Den, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, writes that studying sacred geometry leads one to an understanding of how the Creator has structured the physical world around us. Within this plane, certain patterns emerge that point to its unity and connection to a divine mind that created it. Van Den and then further notes that timeless geometric codes underlie seemingly different things, showing the parallels between patterns in snowflakes, shells, flowers, the corneas of our eyes, the DNA molecule that is the building block of human life, and the galaxy itself in which Earth resides, right? So this shape is in everything, right? Imagine that. Like, and watch, it's gonna go white, even in snowflakes, right? Little snowflake to a shell to a flower. This shape is in everything. And so let's see if the next slide is the one where, okay, so here it is. So this man, Lucian Khan, right? And he put, his copyright thing. So I'm not gonna try to infringe on anything because it looks like, he and I know he did a lot of work, right? So I want you to go watch his videos. But he showed like the seed of life, right? And he talks about time and all this and that. So he gets really into it, which I love, right? I understand all the stuff he's talking about. It makes perfect sense, right? So he starts breaking it down and he shows how in the seed of life, boom, 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 there's this 108 times 2 equals 216. So there's 216. And the seed of life, he talks about the Fibonacci sequence and all these things that, I didn't understand, right? At the time I'm watching it, I'm following along what he's talking about, but I'm not really getting it, right? And then the 108, 108 times 2, like it says, is 216. So I'm like, wait, the seed of life is one of these geometric patterns that's in everything. Uh, but so here it is. The 216 is in there, right? He explains it, right? He explains it. So I would say go watch his video, right? Then it comes Metatron's cube, right? Metatron's cube. He talks about against the Fibonacci sequence inside of Metatron's cube. And look at the numbers in red and yellow add up to a divine 1080. 1080 times 2 equals 2160. So that 108 times 2 is, 216. So he's showing how all these numbers, right here, there are 216 numbers in all in red and yellow. 6 times 6, 36. Remember, this is a fractional. So I don't really get all that, right? But for those mathematicians, see, this is where we combine, right? I came at it more from the spiritual and all the things that are happening to me, and he breaks it down mathematically, right? And if you listen to the videos, he explains everything. So I'm sure mathematicians will love his videos. See, here it goes. It shows like the honeycomb, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the one in the middle. The snowflakes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You see all these different, it says image showing electron density, atomic force microscope. Here's Metatron's cube. The sun, right? When it shines like that, it looks like that. 3, 3. And this. But let me go back real quick and show you why Metatron's cube was so important. So this is what blew my mind, where I was like, wait a second. Why I talked earlier about things with my brother. If you look at Metatron's cube, look at the circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 6, my brother's birthday. If you add the one in the middle, so this 6 plus 6 is 12 with 13. It's called Metatron's cube, right? And I'm guessing even that 13 equals M, right? 13 is the M, which my brother was communicating with me through. And sometimes he would communicate me with the 6 for his birthday, 6, 6. But even the 13 for Metatron's cube. So then my mind was just blown. I was even like, so what? Was my brother like this incarnated version of this? Or, I was like, there are times I was like, am I this person? And he's reminding me, like, all this stuff. Because even, my thing for my podcast is remember your soul mission. So I'm like, I'm just, or is this who's communicating, Metatron or what? But just the fact that this was so connected to my brother, I was like, wait, was my brother this person, or I am, or what's going on, right? So I was really tripping out, right? But this stuff is all this stuff, right? Oh, it says real life image of hexagon on Saturn, right? The sixth planet. So there we go again, the six, right? I didn't even know. And then there's that Metatron's cube, right? So that's pretty interesting, right? So he was showing all that. So again, if you look at his page, see all this stuff. He shows again the sun, this, that, and even the Star of David. That it's really like Metatron's cube, right? That's really the symbol of that, right? So all this stuff, right? So there's Metatron's cube again. He even talks about this, right? 90 degrees, 90 degrees. He talks about 360 times 6 equals 216, 0. So even our degrees is embedded with 216, right? He goes really deep into it. So again, just go look at his thing even here, right? He talks about the Fibonacci. There's a video I think he made about how even the clock, well, it wasn't even his, they were talking about our time, the way the 60, everything is 60 and then a 360 degrees, right? So I think that's what it's about, right? How clocks enjoying them at the nuclei, you get the 360-degree universe. So he breaks it down, right? So that was that, right? So then after that, I watched all his videos so you guys could go see them, and I'm like, whoa, that was crazy, right? But then I'm still stuck with the gematria as well, right? I think the whole, gematria or gematria, I forgot how you pronounce it. I think I said it correctly in the audiobook because I really wanted to say it correctly, but right now I don't remember. But it was interesting because, lion in Hebrew is gematria. And lion in Hebrew has a gematria number of 216. My ascending is Leo, right? Leo the lion. And they say that's kind of your real like zodiac sign, right? That's your real zodiac sign, your ascendant, right? And so I didn't find that out till like probably while I was putting all this book together, right? So it was interesting that then I found out the lion, 216, and the 9 again for 216. Um, right here. So it's likewise might. The lion and might equals 216. Thus, the lion's might is in its essence. He does not desire in the might of the horse. The creator does not desire mere external might, but rather true inner might. So even truth, I believe, is like 216, and wisdom equals 216 in that gematria number, which was used I guess that's what it is, Kabbalistic numerology, right? So this 216 starts appearing in those ways, right? Then here it is, the 72 names of God, the account of the parting of the Red Sea in Exodus 14, 19, 21 has long been a source of wonder concerning the number 216. In the original Hebrew, each of these verses contains 72 letters, giving a total of 216. In Kabbalistic tradition, it is said that if the letters of these three verses are written one above the other, the first from right to left, the second from left to right, and the third from right to left, there are 72 columns of three-letter names of God. Written in that way, the verses appear as follows. See, so here it is. So that this would have been the name of God that Moses used to split the Red Sea. I believe that's what they're getting at, right? And it's 216. So that's the secret name of God. Right here, this person wrote Vinay Kumar. 216 is the numerical value of Jevura, the fifth Sephiroth in the Kabbalistic tree of life, and the sum of the letters in God's 72 hidden names as 6 cubed, 6 times 6 times 6, 216, is also symbolic of the mark of the beast in Christianity. I think I had already read this. This has been expressed in the Left Behind series. Okay, so it's a little different. The meaning of the number 216 should fill your life with positive energy because it's a message of support, hope, and encouragement. You can stop being anxious because the appearance of angel numbers 216 signifies security and stability. So I think number 2 was about the angel number. So I forgot to put that in here. But so that's kind of the angel number meaning for those that like those angel numbers. I guess it says it's an encouraging number, right? I think I'm almost at the end, so just bear with me a little more. So here, right? This goes again into these meanings of these other things, right? And he measured the wall thereof and 144 40 and 4 cubits according to the measure of a man, that is of the angel. Revelations 21, 17. So we know that in the Bible, 144 is very significant, right? Because they say there's 144,000 of the chosen or this or that. And so lo and behold, a cubit is 18 inches or 1.5 feet. These numbers provide a wealth of information. 104 cubits equals 216 feet, equals 6 times 6 times 6. So it's interesting that this 144, which is supposed to be such a sacred number, then to make it be 666, I don't know, it's kind of strange. See, 144,000, 666. The comet Shoemaker Levi 9 collided with Jupiter at an impact speed of 2160 kilometers. Wow. So even, the universe doing these crazy things, right? It collided with Jupiter at an impact speed of 216,000 kilometers an hour. So that's amazing. Like, who wrote that into the script, right? 216,000 kilometers equals 37 miles per second. The speed of Earth's orbit around the sun times 2. Wow, so that's pretty amazing. 216,000 equals 144,000 times 1.5. The first 144 digits of pi after the decimal point sum to 666. I don't know, 144,000 divided by 12 equals 12,000. 12,000 to the third power equals 216 equals 8 billion, a remarkably round number in anybody's language. So I don't know what that's about. But anyways, that's pretty interesting, right? See, so even that synchronistic thing of it hitting Jupiter at that speed and everything. Okay, so then I went into this movie called Pi, right? I'm almost at the end for real. So anyways, Pi, then it went back to 1998. I was like, oh, wow. So it tied into all the Jewish stuff, right? That they have always known about this 216 number. So then why was it hidden, right? And then that's what led me down the rabbit hole. But first, let me play this real quick, and then I'll tell you what else I learned.
The Torah. This 216 number.
This is insanity, Max.
Or maybe it's genius. I have to get that number.
Hold on, you have to slow down. You're losing it.
You only gave us part of the code. Now give us the rest of the code so we can set it right.
You are only a vessel from our God. You are carrying a delivery that was meant for us.
Right there, you heard it in the beginning.
The Torah. This 216 number.
This is insanity, Max.
Or maybe.
But then, right there, it's like everyone's upset at him because he's just a mathematician or something that figured out this 216 code, and then they're going crazy at him, and they're like, you know what, it's for, the rabbis or the religious zealots, they're like, this is our number, right? So this is an interesting movie going back to 1998. And so it was funny, after this movie, I started looking it up, and you know, and this is what I found out, right? The director of the movie, this is what happened. Watch, let me read it. The 72 names are divided into 4 columns of 18 names each. I think right here it said it differently for whatever reason. Each of the 4 columns represents one of the 4 letters of the tetragrammaton. Grammaton. Tetragrammaton. The names are known collectively as Shemhamforax. I don't know. These 216 letters were the theme of the 1989 movie Pi, directed by Darren Aronofsky. Asked in an interview about the number 216, Aronofsky replied, "It's true. All the cabal stuff in the film is completely 100% real, totally non-fictional. I studied with a lot of leading cabal scholars in the world, and they shared with me a lot of their secrets. Everything you see on the screen is completely 100%, totally, fully, completely real." So after that movie, right, like because in the movie they show a lot, oh, 216, oh, this guy, this mathematician, the whole movie's figuring out this code. It ends up being this whole 216 thing. So I didn't even know there was a whole movie based on this 216, right? And obviously, Aronofsky is of Jewish background, right? So after this movie is when it hit me. I was like, wait a second. So let me stop at this one real quick. So then I was like, wait a second. Adam Sandler is Jewish. You know, he's made songs about Hanukkah and this and that. And the fact that he put 216 into his movies, Punch Drunk Love, Happy Gilmore, I don't know if even Skyfall, like one of the directors had a Jewish background too. So then I started seeing this thing. The only one that I think didn't was Barbershop, right? I'm almost sure, I'm not 100% sure, but that there wasn't a Jewish background to that one. But with these other movies, it was like, okay, I think Skyfall had like a director that was Jewish or something. Then Adam Sandler movies. And so then I'm like, okay, maybe these 216, like they've been embedding it into their movies. Why? Like, is it just as a reverence to the name of God, right? Like, this is supposed to be the name of God. So it's just a way of, like, when people do put things about Jesus and this and that. So now here they're just putting things about God, like as a tribute, or what's going on. So see, that's why sometimes I wouldn't know unless I asked Adam Sandler, hey, how come you keep putting 216 in your movies, right? It's obvious that it's very on purpose, right? And then here's this other Jewish director, Aronofsky, that, put it. And he said, these scholars really believe that. So it's not too far-fetched to believe that Adam Sandler's being Jewish, uh, is aware of all this, right? So then that's where my brain started saying, okay, why do they keep putting it in these movies, right? And I've seen it in way more than I can remember, but these are just the ones that I've found, right? Let me see. So this is a important number, I think, too, that I don't know too much about, but this golden ratio, I had heard about it before. So the golden ratio, also known as the divine proportion, can be seen in nature, geometry, art, architecture, music, and many other areas. The irrational number called phi and represented by the Greek symbol can be derived from the numbers of man. So sine 666 equals cosine 216. Sine 666 minus cosine 216 equals 1.618 equals phi, right? Something like that. So I think there's even those what are they called? Fraternities, paternities, I don't even know. But I know I've seen those phi ones, right? Where they even have the sweaters or whatever that have that phi symbol. So for a brilliant interactive demonstration of how this number works in nature, click here. So obviously I didn't click there. So even this has the 216, right? The golden ratio. So right here even, right? I'm almost at the end, so just bear with me. There are several reasons given behind the importance of 108 beads in a mala. So, 108 times 2 is 216. And I didn't know 108 is in so many things, in yoga and all these things. So let's see if I could get through all of them. If not, I'll just read a couple. Or you could pause it here and read them yourself, right? But I'll read a couple of the first ones. There are 12 zodiac signs in the world and 9 planets in our solar system. Therefore, 12 times 9 equals 108. Times 2 would be 216. As one counts the mantras using a mala, it can be used to overcome the negative influence of the stars, thereby changing their destiny. So that's pretty deep, that they had this belief that, as you're going through this beads, if you ever see, I don't know if it's the same as the Catholic beads, but I guess I don't know if it's in the Hindu religion where they, count the beads. There are 54 letters in the ancient alphabet of Sanskrit. Each letter has a masculine and feminine energy. More significantly, these alphabets are referred to as Shiva and Shakti. Therefore, 54 times 2 equals 108. So there it is again, right? This 108, which is half of 216, is in everything. Did you know that the diameter of the sun is 108 times the diameter of the earth? Also, the distance from the sun to the earth is 108 times the diameter of the sun. Mind blowing. It is also said that there are 108 earthly desires in mortal beings. Also, we have 108 feelings in which 36 relate to the past, 36 to the present, and 36 to the future. 36 times 3 equals 108, right? So it's interesting that that's half of 216, right? And then there's the other ones. So that's pretty interesting, the 108. I just want to throw that in there. So this is the craziest thing. After all this, I was done, right, with the book. I was finished with the book, and I was gonna put the and or something, and for some reason, something whispered in my ear, "It is done." So I put "it is done." After, when I was doing the audiobook, so I had already published my second edition of the book. When I was doing the audiobook, I don't know why I decided to look up "it is done," and lo and behold, it is Revelations 2:16. He said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children." So once that happened, I had this epiphany. It was almost like I thought about, and I've said this before, and it was almost like, you know, a check is invalid until we sign it, right? A contract is invalid until we sign it. So I almost felt like this 216 throughout my whole life. It was like God signing off for me. It was like, what more could I need to have the confidence to go forward with this whole thing if God has co-signed, right? Like, if it's clear, like, my mission was divinely guided, right? Remember your soul mission, just like I have in this thing behind me. Well, you can't see it because I'm on the small screen, but I have this thing behind me that says "Remember your soul mission," right? And so like, clear, being here on assignment to bring this message, right? Um, so that's what I thought. After all this, it was like, wow, did God really just co-sign for me? Right? Like, boom, this whole 216 going back throughout my whole life, going back to, you know, BCE times or BC times, going back through all these things, right? And so this is the crazy thing. I should have probably started with this part. But before I even started writing the book, or before all this, I had a vision, and I was in what I thought was like what people refer to as the Akashic records. And there was this ancient man with the hair like down to like, just like old gray or whatever, or white, ancient being. And we had books all over the floor, right? Open, boom, 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 boom. And we're like going through like we're putting all the pieces together, right? And this was like years before all this started, of me writing the book. And then when it all came to an end, I remembered that dream, and I was like, that's what it meant. That had this been 20 years ago, I couldn't have wrote all this information. It had to be now, in the information age, where, look at, I could screenshot things and show them to you. We would have had to have like over 100 books all over the floor open to show you. Look at what happened here in ancient Greece with Plato and Pythagoras. Look at over here the Aztec pyramid. Look at over here the moon. Look at over here. There would have been no way to really show all these things had this been over 20 years ago. So that's what this ancient man was showing me, right? That's why this was the perfect time. I came here for this now, to show this, right? So that's how it all began as well, right? So as you can see, like I said in the beginning, they said the statistics of all the things that were shown, that's the argument for Jesus showing the things, he showed, right? But obviously people say, well, that was so long, there's no way to prove it. So here I am showing this. So even in the book, right, I put there is no Big Bang, basically, like that, to show the way this is embedded into everything, right? And that's why I suggest go look at that Lucian Khan, look at his videos, because he explains it. There's no way, like, this mathematical problem is written into snowflakes, honeycombs, the pattern of the moon, flowers, everything, to where it's obvious it was a creator, right? Like, there's a creator. There's no way this is just a Big Bang and poof. You know what I mean? I know scientists will be upset, but it's more like that stubbornness, right? Just showing like, no, no, no. This is not, it can't be true. But like, that's why, I guess whether I embedded myself into this reality. Oh, and that's what I like in the videos. Let me go real quick to that Lucian Khan, right? Like how he starts talking about, um, and I always gave that example, like when I would say okay, this body, right? It's just a vehicle, right? We're using it while we're here. Similar to when I wasn't familiar with the word avatar back then, but when we shut up and we speak, we can still hear our voices. We can still think, even though we're not talking, because there's some, the person inside our soul or whatever. So it's obvious this is our vehicle while we're here. Just like when we're driving a car, who's driving the car? We are. The car is just the vehicle, but then there's that person inside, just like there's a person inside of us or our soul. So the same way, he gave the example. Oh, I guess he ran into criticism from a mathematical community where right away they blocked them within he said, here I am with scholars and I showed them all this information and they shot him down like his things weren't valid. So in his videos, he even shows look, he made a whole avatar, right? Like in one, he's talking as a fox or something. Then he has this character. If you see the screenshots, watch. Let me go back real quick. So that's kind of yeah, that's someone that I think that's what he looks like, kind of right now. Not 100%, but so he wanted to show, and he's talking and everything to show, hey, the way we are avatars in this reality or this matrix, wherever we're projecting ourselves from, just the way he projected himself into that character on the screen. So he's showing, hey, in this reality, we're doing it. Why is it so hard to believe that from another reality, we're projecting ourselves into this reality, right? Okay, let me get past that. So that's what I love that he put together, right? So this is again the 216. So here it went back all the way. So this was really cool. After I did the audio, or after I did the second edition, even this, right? So I'm just going to show real quick. I'm pretty much done with the presentation. These are just more like my personal things, right? So I showed the other things, how it's embedded in everything in life, the flowers, the seashell, the sun, all these different, I know it's in the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, but I'm sure it's in other pyramids, this and that. I just, over the years, I always try to screenshot everything and take pictures, but I'm sure there's a lot of things that I didn't have with me as I was making this presentation, right? But even that, right? I've written over 1,000 songs in my time. But it's very known that the group, one day me and a neighbor were walking home. I mean, we were walking this girl to her aunt's work, which was a few miles away. And she had a Walkman, right? With a cassette. Back then it was a cassette, right? And so the Walkman, for those that don't know, it's a little device that you put the cassette and you could take it with you, portable device, almost like an MP3 player. Whatever. Maybe some don't even know what MP3 players are anymore. But anyways, a Walkman. And we're walking this girl and she lets me, my friend was all in love with her. So he's talking to her. And I put on the headphones. And as I hit play, it was that group Bone Thugs and Harmony, and their music comes on. I think the first song was the song For the Love of Money, and I'm just like, what? And it's Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I'm just blown away. And that's when I knew I wanted to make music, at that exact moment, right? I was a teenager. I know I started writing my sophomore year of high school, so maybe I was 14, 15, I don't even know. But they were from Cleveland, Ohio, and guess what it is? 216. So the group that inspired me to even do music was 216, Cleveland, Ohio. Then one of the first songs, it was the second song I performed on TV, but it became a very popular song for me that was I codenamed it Lorraine, right? I codenamed it Lorraine. That wasn't the real name of the girl, but the one that let me hear Bone Thugs. I wrote a song about her because after, she went down the wrong path. And I codenamed the song Lorraine. I had even named it Megan before. When you look at my old keyboard and I made the beat for it, I had named it Megan. Then I changed it to Lorraine, maybe because it rhymed better, right? Lorraine. Where could she be? I seen her walking down the street. Dirty ass could be. She once was a good girl. Now she all upset and begging people just to get a hit. So I named the song Lorraine just because I think it had but it was originally called Megan. Then I named it Lorraine. And look at, even in 216, there was an area. I mean, with the area code 216 was a city called Lorraine, right? The first nationwide telephone number plan of 1947 divided telecommunications services in Ohio into 4 numbering plan areas, one of each quadrant of the state. Area code 216 was assigned to the northeastern part, comprising the area Lorraine to Youngstown. So even that 216, right? Not only Cleveland, Ohio, the group that I heard because of the girl I codenamed Lorraine, which I have a song called Lorraine. So it was all tied in 216, 216. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So that was like, wow. Like my whole life is really pre-planned kind of thing, right? I know there's all this painful parts in between. I don't know why we got to go through. I guess just to help each other, teach each other part of the life lessons. But I was like, wow, talk about my life really being pre-planned, right? And then here's the song, right? To show you that I'm not playing, right? See, I even put it right here, originally called Megan. Lorraine Live. This is from October 1 of 2008. See, I was performing it on TV. And it was a Christian TV show that actually after, I became very like, just because, you learn things and the people are always good. It's just the institution of religion, like it just never made sense to me being someone that studied the Bible even alone and seeing all the division that these religions cause because everyone thinks they're right. Everyone wants to be the right one, right? And everyone is like, no, God told me this. No, God told me this, right? So, that's why it's kind of flattering to see, all this co-signing by God and stuff. But I'm not trying to win nothing. I'm not trying to start no religion. I'm trying to win no converts. I'm just trying to bring truth. And like they said, truth, the gematria number is 216. So I'm cool with that, right? But anyways, this Lorraine song was October 1, 2008 that I had performed it, right? And so you could see that was 216, right? Lorraine. So it was embedded in my life since then. This one happened the other day, which probably led me to see it was from 1986, Aliens. And they're on a mission, right? And look at what happens while they're on a mission. Let me just play it.
Watch your spacing.
Oh, and you heard the man, don't bunch up. Stay loose.
Your transmission's showing a lot of breakup.
Probably getting some interference from the structure.
Those lights.
Next one down. And proceed on a 216.
Oh, roger, that's a 216.
You heard him proceed on a 216, and it says mission time. So proceed on 216, roger that, 216, right? So it's like they're on a mission, 216. So I was like, oh, man. And now here I am a few days later after I recapped on this. It was on TV, and I was just watching. I was like, man, did I just hear 216? I rewinded it. So it kind of maybe I was still supposed to do a little more for the mission, right? It was funny because even that, there came up this older thing, Jewish 216 Jewish Hospital, King. It was on King's Highway. They had started this whole article called 216, and it was called 216 Jewish Hospital, and it started being published June, which I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe it was even on my birthday, but June of 1952, right? And it ran from June 1952 to November of 1987, right? October, November 1987. So, and it was just this whole thing, but it was just funny. It was 216 Jewish, and it was 216 South Kings Highway was published roughly every month to every 2 months from June, blah, blah, blah. And so the fact that that was the address, Kings Highway too. So, I don't know. I think like that, right? Of being of service to higher power or something, right? So I thought it was funny that it was this old article. So there's just so many things, right? So many things. So this was funny because, not funny, haha, but one day I was messaging with a friend after the whole 216 thing, and the message just jumped up. This was like after my brother had passed in 2019, and the message jumped up by itself, and the clock, it said 2:16 p.m. of 2011. And we were messaging like probably 2019, 2020. I'm thinking it was after my brother. I know it was after my brother passed because then they said, what? 216? And then they said that was the birthday or that their cousin who also took their life had passed on 216, or that was their birthday or something. So I was like, what? So it was just crazy, right? So even there, it was just like, oh man. So that's when the number at first, that was at the beginning of everything though. So I think that was in 2019. All these things, like it was just weird, right? So it was just weird that we were messaging in 2019 and then vroom, the messages jumped up to 2016, right? So that's some whole spiritual thing right there. Then it was funny because this looks like a Tesla ad, and I screenshotted it. Look at December 19th of 2019, I screenshotted it. So that was a few months after my brother passed because the 216 jumped out. So I thought, I was like, whoa, why did 216 just jump out? And then when I looked up the gematria number of a Tesla, which that looks like it is 216 as well. So 216 is gematria meaning of, or the numerical value of the word Tesla, 216, and then 216 miles. So that felt more on purpose. Like, why did they do that, right? Why did they put a Tesla and then it's 216 miles, it says right there. So that was pretty interesting, right? That's a little bit, see, that's how old this thing was. 216 miles charging complete. So damn, that's when those cars only went 216 miles. We know it's a lot further now, right? So things, it was popping up to me. This was before, right? This was not too long ago. There was something, I think, right before or the day after I did the presentation for the Spiritual Awakening International. I got in my car and it was 66 degrees with 216 miles I had left on the fuel. And I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. The birth date and the departure date, right? So like the pyramid, 21666. So I was like, okay. I was meant to do that thing because I don't know if I was like, why did I share it? That's my first time sharing it to an international audience. I don't know how many people tuned in from different countries. But like I said, I only was able to say the first 15 minutes. So I didn't even get into all this stuff that I got into in this presentation, right? So that was it jumped out at me right after, like boom, like a synchronicity. Like, no, you're exactly what you did what you were supposed to do, all that stuff. This just jumped out at me. I don't know. Lizard is I don't know why it would jump out at me, right? I don't know if it was like a shirt or a sticker or what, 216 gecko. I don't know. So that was just weird. This was a commercial I was in, and it was, see, 2020, right before the pandemic. And, I didn't even want to work, I think, because I was still like messed up. And I think every job I was getting was significant. It tied into my brother somehow. Because after my brother passed, I didn't even want to do acting anymore. And then every single job I was getting had something to do with him. So I was like, oh, okay, he wanted me to be here or something, right? So, anyways, see, here I am in this commercial. They actually played this during the Super Bowl. So I was like, what? Did I just make it to the Super Bowl? They were playing this commercial during the Super Bowl. And I was out, I think, doing deliveries for Uber Eats. And I had just got home. And I was like, let me turn on the TV. I wanted to see if there was another commercial I had worked on that they were supposed to play for the Super Bowl. But in that one, I did see but I was way in the back. Like, you could see me, but I was way in the back. And this one, I'm like right there. I didn't even know they were going to play this for the Super Bowl. And yeah, see, look, it premiered 2/16 of 2020. This show, it was for it was a commercial for HGTV for the Extreme Makeover Home Edition, right? So sometimes this number was good to me. It was like a blessing, right? Like even that when I did that Code Black, let me tell you. So this is why I even felt right. I didn't want to say it because I didn't want people to think I had like this ego or something, right? But let me show you, right? So this, right? I worked this, and out of all days, it premiered on 216. They even played it during the Super Bowl. So I was like, oh, I was like, that's the California wine make. Like, I don't know if on that movie Step Brothers, when they say like, the biggest thing is like working in the California wine mixer. So this was my California wine mixer of acting, right? I made it to the Super Bowl. I was like, what? They just played my commercial during the Super Bowl. So I was all happy, right? Oh, and this, right? After I was saying something about 216, look at 7 days ago. So I had just said something about Billy Carson. I had no clue that he had this encounter. Because, like I said, after my brother passed, these beings visited me. They started visiting me every year, right? Like, I got so sensitive to the spirit world. So, for people, that was my first time. Like, before that, I believed in pretty much everything, but I can't really say that I had like the contact like that with otherworldly beings and this and that. So when he was sharing his experience, and I don't even know if this is that episode, but 216 jumped out. Like, dude, I was just talking about Billy Carson, and here he is on episode 216. So I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me, right? So that was just like synchronicities and stuff, right? Then I was like looking, I think, for laptop, and then it said, boom, the countdown 216 for some Apple thing. Oh, so I interviewed someone on the podcast, and it was like, they mentioned the book, and I happened to go look up the book because they were talking about, I guess, how her daughter was, she was part of a book that talking about the kids. Right now, more and more kids are being born with these gifts and being tapped into the other side and this and that. So I happened to go look up the book, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Look at the rating, 6.6. And the day it was published was February 16th of 2019, the day my brother passed, and his birthday 6/6. So I was like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. So it felt very like I was meant to interview this woman, Libba Phillips, right? That's her name. She was in this book. Just one chapter is about her. So it's a bunch of stories about different people with their experiences with their kids having already these gifts, right, since they're little, like communication with the other side and this and that. So I was like, oh wow, this is amazing, right? So it was like a super confirmation that I was supposed to. Oh, and even this, right? So Libba, she had lost her sister as well. They even made a Lifetime movie about it. I think it's called Bringing Ashley Home. So this is Libba, right? So we were able to kind of connect on that level. She lost, excuse me, she lost her sister, and that's when a lot of things started opening up for her. I lost my brother, so we were able to connect in that way. And then she tells me about the book, and then there was something that connected her. Like, so we've had these connections now. So I was like, wow, I was meant to connect with her. So it was just these synchronistic things, right? So this was mind blowing. So this was recent with that I interviewed her this year. So I just found out about this. So I'm saying the number keeps coming up for me. Now it's a guide like, oh, I'm on the right track, right? So now to say all that, it showed me all these things and prophecies and going back thousands of years and the creation of the world and all this and that. But it's also so tied into my life. Like I said, it's like the God Himself co-signing for me, right? Which is beautiful. And it's nothing like obviously there's been a lot of to who much is given, much is what is the word? Required, I guess, or whatever. But not that is just part of the mission I agree to. It's fine. You know what I mean? They don't give you more than you can handle, so it is what it is. This is just a song I was listening to. Bam, 216 came out. That day I just felt like listening to pure music in Spanish for some reason, and this one had and it was such a beautiful song, and I was just like, wow, 216. I was like, okay, I was meant to hear that song. I had never heard it before, right? This is the thing with my brother, right? I posted it on his birthday this year, and then when I happened to go back and look after 3 hours that I had posted it, it had 66 likes, which is his birthday, right? 6/6. So I was just like, he still communicates with me, but that's him. I don't know if I had shown a picture of him already, but this is him. This is me, right? We had similar like features, similar that. Our birthdays were only a few days apart. So we're very connected, right? This is me on that Code Black movie. So, you know, um, this is why it's funny because out of all things, right? They called me to go work there. I was just working as a background actor. And then next thing you know, I'm the one that saves everybody from this on 216. This episode 216. I'm I'm like my body has I don't have I'm immune, right? I'm immune to this virus. They're taking my blood and putting it into Marsha Gay Harden, right? Um and I save everybody, I guess, right? So what's funny, I mean, I didn't see it in that way, but it was like that's funny, this whole 216 knowledge, and it was like who knows? Maybe it will be like that movie Interstellar. One day that 216 is gonna be the code if people need to leave the Earth or build a spaceship or something. So I was like, who knows? Maybe, but I just thought it was funny that they did that, right? In this show that aired on 216. But it's a little crazy because you know on with the whole it kind of helped me stand my ground with certain things that happened, right? Like I said, the decisions that had to be made during the thing. Um, I stood my ground. This thing popped in my head as well. And this wasn't even it. During everything with the pandemic, I was given 3 visions, and this wasn't even in that. Like, I don't know if I was aware of it yet, but it wasn't even a part of that, which later on, I think helped me stand my ground as well. I was like, oh, wow. you know, I just felt safe, right? I felt good, like I was being taken care of through the spirit by the spirit world. But yeah, sure enough, so this was a very weird experience, right? Because I was in there. They didn't even I even had a name, right? Um, it's interesting the name that they gave me too, right? Because the name translates to something with the keys, right? Uh and it was almost like with all this 216 treasure, I was granted these keys, right? Still don't know if I was supposed to share this knowledge with the world. I feel like, hey, this man was already doing it too, this Lucian Khan. So here I am sharing this knowledge. It's a little scary because you think, I hope people don't think, oh, this is all Matrix anyway, so who cares what I do? But it does matter because that's something I keep being shown over and over. All this reality matters. Maybe we're projecting ourselves from a distant future. There's so many. I think there's this movie called Deja Vu, The Source Code, different ones where they like go back in time and somehow they're able to, moving back in time, they're able to fix things in the future. So it's almost like, what if we are projecting ourselves as avatars into this reality, but it's to fix something, save the future, right? Maybe it is a way we're transferring our consciousness from higher dimensions into this old consciousness because this is the moment where everything went wrong, right? Where we could have stopped the nuclear wars, or we could have stopped everything, the Armageddon, right? It doesn't have to go that way. This is how we change the future, right? These higher beings didn't come visit me like over and over and over and over to try and bring me all this information for no reason, right? So many others too. I even had songs before all this stuff. I have a song, We Can Change It. That everything's about like, my thing was always like about us changing, us be the hero to your own story, but not in that way, like, but don't wait. Like, why are we waiting for the Messiah when we have everything, even that, right? If you just follow the stories of Jesus, it was about like, you're gonna be able to do all this, right? It was never about, oh, wait, just wait for me, let the world. That's what strayed me away from religions. They used to be so happy. Oh, when I see the world getting messed up, I'm happy because that means we're closer to Jesus coming back and fixing everything. So that's kind of one of my things, is like all that stuff about if we are projecting into this reality. That's why I was always afraid to speak about it, because I was like, well, what if people take it like, well, it doesn't matter? But I feel like I've been shown undoubtedly with the most proof that it does matter. You know, it does matter in some way. I know different people with NDEs have so many different experiences. Or maybe, who knows? Maybe that's just my ego wanting to feel that they're not showing me all this information for nothing. They didn't show me 4 years of information for nothing, right? Maybe they did. If so, then it's fine. I shared it. I did my job, right? And that's fine. I have to be okay with that. Um, you know, so, and I practice what I preach. I don't live out there in a destructive way, right? Trying to hurt people or anything like that. So, you know, um, and if you do, you can still grow, right? It's not never too late to grow. And that's how we change this world, right? Together. Because obviously we're all here. That's the thing, right? And I don't mean to get all preachy, but obviously, right, there was a reason for all of this, right? It's not like this was all wasted, right? Just like that thing, remember your soul mission. Where it came from was, I had gone to that thing, the Standing Rock movement that happened up there, and every morning when we were there was this elder that would, as the sun was barely cracking, he'd get on the microphone, and in his shaky voice, he would say, get up, remember why you're here. Get up, remember why. And he would say it like, I think in his native tongue as well. And then, he'd repeat like, it was the most like just beautiful voice, because it was like this old, like, he was saying it from the bottom of his heart, his soul. But you could tell it would like shake you, right? Like, but he was saying it with everything inside of his essence. Remember why you're here. Get up, get up. We weren't there to just waste time and this and that. And though so many people traveled there to take selfies and this and that, it was like we had a. So that kind of made me feel about this earth. Yeah, we're here to enjoy life, definitely, because it is the most beautiful gift we have, right? This experience in life. Um, you know, but remember why you're here. Remember why you're here. So let me see. Let me see if there's anything else. I know I went off into something else there. Oh, even that, right? Like during that thing, right? There was this. I screenshotted it right before the first lockdown of the pandemic. And it was a video about manufactured fear and prophecy. And it had 216 had a thumbs up. See, I hadn't even clicked on it. I just went to that page and it was 216 with the thumbs up. This is when they still had thumbs down, I think. They still had thumbs up and thumbs down, but it was manufactured fear and prophecy. So I was like, uh-oh, is that? I didn't know yet what was going on, right? I didn't know yet what was going on. So once everything started, it was like, oh, wait, is this all manufactured fear and prophet? Like manufactured fear and it's all prophecy, you know? And this was just a funny thing, right? I had gone to look at a car that I was going to buy. And out of all things, I went on this whole trip and then the license plate had 216. And I was like, wow, it's like one of those synchronicities that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then at the end, right, I don't know why. I think I had seen that. Was it Tom Brady or something? I think there was a roast, right? And they said that Giselle was his. I think this was who it was, right? And I don't know why I looked, why, because they said something. So I wanted to see like, isn't she like the model or something like that? And I like this because it had 216, but I like what she had. Love is the way. See, so all this journey about boom, 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 to have this. I didn't even remember about this. I just saw it today when I was putting all this together. I saw that this 216 and it said love is the way. So, you know, so I'll have to agree with that. And that's it. End of slide. So that's it. Wow. I don't know how long this is gonna be. Hope you all stuck around with me through all that. I mean, that's kind of my first slideshow presentation ever. Hopefully it resonated. Hopefully it made sense. I know it's a lot to take in. Watch it in parts. Um, like I said, it'll probably help a lot if you, especially if you like the math part of it, to go listen to the Lucian Khan, like the way he was taught. Like I've made jokes about it. I know, like the way for him, all it took was going pee and missing time. And for me, unfortunately, it was like the worst day of my life, right? But if I agreed to it, so I would never forget that number. That's the day like my brother departed. And if I wasn't shown that it was some kind of agreement and contract or pre-planning all this stuff, then I probably wouldn't be here right now, right? I wouldn't be making this video. I wouldn't be here. This life, it's heavy sometimes, but uh when you know that, you know, what this reality is, maybe it's helpful. Maybe that'll make us come together and work together and know that there's a reason we're doing this. Whether it's this school, like, because even that, right? Everything about life, right? Whether you're in the military or things in school, projects, when you work with people, um, you start seeing that, right? Like you're working for a goal together, right? And so the fact that we're all in this place, if we are all projections and avatars and we're all in this earth and we're here together, and like, I get it, there's some mischievous beings or people, but like, if we know that we're here together, why wouldn't we want to make it the most pleasant experience, right? I think that's why there's all these warnings. All these things exist for a reason, right? It's not like all these, whether the what is it, 42 laws of Ma'at, right? 42 laws of Ma'at, 10 commandments, whatever, all these things that it's not to live like, oh, like with a, but it's things that people have already tested. Hey man, this didn't work. Hey, this didn't work. You know? I don't know if religions just like kind of took it and put the fear in the people to control people, but maybe if we could get back to a place where it's almost like in the military, right? They say police your own. So like if you police your own, then they don't have to get in trouble beyond that, right? You check each other, you take care of each other, you say, hey, this isn't the good way, right? Don't do it this way, don't do it that way. Like there's a better way to do things. When I was younger, I used to notice that kind of influence, and I maybe I wasn't ready for it, right? Like I would notice people would listen. Like I remember even this friend that would like a gangbanger was gonna fight someone else, and then I was the only voice of reason. All the other cholo dudes were like, yeah, man, or what, you're gonna get him and this and that, and I knew that they had been friends, so I was like, hey man, maybe it's just all misunderstanding. But then I had started drinking, and then I joined the crowd with, oh yeah, you're gonna, and then he gets all serious with me. I thought you said it was all misunderstanding, and I was like, oh no, no, yeah, yeah. I was like, oh wow, this guy listened to me. Like that's the thought, even though all the negative, like he hung on to what I said. That one voice of reason penetrated all that nastiness, and that's all he was focused on. No, it's a misunderstanding. Like because he wanted to. Like a lot of times we want to do the right things. And sometimes, I mean, until we grow brave enough to us be our voice of reason, us push ourselves, that don't give in to the peer pressure until we're wise enough to or strong enough to do that. If someone gives us a voice of reason, we just might hang on to it, right? So at some point I noticed people would listen to me, but then I got bitter of life. You know, people do you dirty, or you're in a relationship, someone breaks your heart, or you got friends that backstab you, or family, or this and that. All these things that start making you bitter, or work related things. And then you're like, forget, I don't want to help nobody no more. But at some point I had that good nature that I wanted people to do good. Now I know why. I guess maybe it's just, you know, even though you don't remember everything when we come into this existence, like we get amnesia or something for most of it, of like who we are. At some point we start remembering, right? Like even with past lives now, I'm like, I've been shown so many things of who I was and different people that I was and this and that. So it all makes sense. And on that, I'll end it because, like I said, this was about the 216. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like if you feel like someone might get something out of this. Um, you know what I mean? Yeah, share it. This is like, I think this is like my Mr. Holland's opus right here, right? It's undeniable. So hope you enjoyed it. That's it. Peace.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One that gets away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is amazing, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.